Good evening and welcome to the March 10th meeting of the Board of Education for the Papillion-La Vista Community Schools. The Open Meetings Act is posted at the front of the room. There are no changes to the agenda tonight, so let's start with our call to order and Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bless you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Witt?
Yes, here.
Mr. Lotus?
Here.
Ms. Wood?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Ms. Butler?
Here.
Mr. Madler?
Here.
All present?
Thank you. We have no excused absences. Item 2 on the agenda, communication reports, beginning with the superintendent.
Thank you very much, Ms. Whip, members of the board, and thank you for the members of the community that are here joining us live and in person. Thank you for engaging with your Board of Education. If you are watching online, thank you for engaging with your board and your community. It is spring break week, which is always kind of fun and exciting. No kids for all of this week, and our buildings have closed down. Boy, we have the right weather for spring break today here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if it'll continue the rest of the week, but hopefully it will, and will be a great break for both our staff and our families. Just a few things happening around the district. Had the good fortune of recently attending Multicultural Fair at Papillion-La Vista High School approximately a week ago. I think this is at least the second time that Monarch High has done this event. It's a student-led event. It consists of dance, it consists of music, it consists of food, cultural displays. It's basically kids from our high schools that are basically showing a little bit of their ethnic heritage and the things that they're most proud of. We had a terrific display of staff showing up, students. It was just a really cool event. Was glad to participate. Speaking of really cool events, we also held our latest unified event. Papillion-La Vista South played host to the unified basketball event, and it was Monarch Titan. And anytime the Monarchs and Titans clash, we know it is a big deal. South won on a buzzer beater. Quite literally. There was just a tenth of a second left on the clock when the bucket went in, giving South the victory. But what a great outpouring of support, again, from our staff, our parents, a lot of tears, a lot of laughs, a lot of smiles. It really does showcase what makes this district such a special place, and it was certainly a rallying point for our students. So congratulations for both teams for competing well. Speaking of basketball, it is state basketball. This week we will have our state basketball at Pinnacle Bank Arena in Lincoln. And again, Monarchs and Titans are squaring off. This Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. at Pinnacle Bank Arena, Monarchs and Titans will play. Should be an amazing matchup. Titans are number 1. Going into the field. Monarchs had scored a big upset over an OPS team that was heavily favored. It should be just an exciting game. So again, this Wednesday in Lincoln, 1:30, hopefully we'll see lots of students, lots of staff, lots of community members cheering on both the Monarchs and the Titans. Also wanted to thank Communications Department for finishing up our pick-me-ups. We do staff pick-me-ups both first semester and second semester. I think I mentioned before to the board that the pick-me-up item this year for our staff was a custom sweatshirt, which you wouldn't think that gets people really excited, but they were extremely well done. They had sponsor names on them, and on the front, not only did they have the district verbiage on it, but it had the building name, building logo, and an icon that somehow signified the significance of that particular building. For example, at Golden Hills, we had some fighter jets, given the heavy influence of Offutt Air Force Base, which is in proximity to Golden. So really great opportunity for the central office team to get out there and be visible, and you're going to see those sweatshirts out in our buildings and communities because the staff really loved them. On related notes, we've been out in the buildings doing a variety of student-centered things. We're right in the midst of Constitution Day / Liberty Day, which is a celebration of the great country that we live in. I got to get back to my roots a little bit from my high school teaching days. Taught a couple of units on the Constitution, U.S. Constitution, Revolutionary War, Articles of Confederation, all of the events leading up to the constitutional amendment process. Taught at both Liberty, La Vista West, and Trumbull. And then followed that up with Read Across America Week, which is always a great opportunity for our administrators to get out and read to our students. I made it out to Patriot and Bell. And finally, again, I know that since we had yet another snow day, that staff, parents, and community members alike are wondering how we're going to make them up. At last count, we are at 6. We build in 3. So as I mentioned, I believe at the last Board of Education meeting, we have not presented the board with a formal recommendation yet. I think there's some other things that we want to explore, including some conversations with the Department of Education to make sure that we're meeting their requirements in terms of the instructional hours. It is based on hours, not on days. But in the very near future, we'll be bringing some recommendations to the Board of Education and communicating that to our parents. We know people have athletic camps and sports camps and activity camps and things planned immediately when school gets out. We are very mindful of that, and we certainly don't want to impede on your plans, but we also want to make sure that we are meeting the rule of law. So more on snow day makeups as information becomes available. And with that, Ms. Witt, I would conclude my superintendent's report.
Thank you. And our next reports are from board members. Anybody have anything to report tonight?
Yeah, I can start. Yeah, yet another snow day. I was scheduled to read that day, so that didn't work. But yeah, that would have been fun. So I was definitely envious when you said you got to read. But then last Thursday night, though, I was honored to be able to go out and help with Carriage Hill. My wife teaches there, so that's kind of why you always hear me in Carriage Hill. But they had a pizza bingo night. So it was a night where they, I think a couple of elementary schools have either tried or done this, but this one is hugely popular at Carriage Hill, where they pre-order pizza. They have them delivered in from Hy-Vee, and then the parents, they pay for them, and then the parents come and get a ticket, pick up pizza, plates, drinks, and then they go bingo cards, and they play bingo. And when they win bingo, then the kids can go choose books. And Carriage Hill had gone out and used some funds and bought a bunch of books, all these brand new books. And so these kids, it's so funny to watch them, because I was passing out pizzas for most of it, and you'd see these kids come running by with their tickets, telling us they want a ticket, and then about 5 minutes later, they'd come running by with their book, showing us they had a book, and it was phenomenal. I think they said they had around 300 families there or something. I mean, it was just packed, but really neat. And I did see a few staff in sweatshirts, their Carriage Hill sweatshirts, and I did get asked a couple of times about what our plan was for snow days. So yes, the interest is there. So, and then of course, like you said, the basketball gods are not kind. So we'll have to really be nice if we could have seen Titans and Monarchs in the championship game and not the first round. But hope to be able to get down there, and hopefully we'll have one of those two teams playing on Saturday. So that would be great. But I think that'll be it. Thank you.
I had a liaison lunch with Dr. Rickley and Dr. Settles on Wednesday, March 26th at Portal Elementary. And very nice representation of staff that were present at the lunch. It included not only classroom teachers, but an art specialist, along with special education and a paraprofessional. And within that mix, some parents were also included as members of the staff. They shared a lot of positive things with us. They were very excited about the update to their logo, and shared that with us. They shared how they've done a great job with their fundraising this year, and their community has supported them as they work to try to make some improvements to their playground. A couple clubs they highlighted were their foreign language club. They have high interest in their 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and they are learning a variety of different languages that are chosen by the kids. And their Battle of the Books is a high participation in that. And I think most recently I read that their team did win the district Battle of the Books, so their hard work paid off. They shared some successes about their STAR Council, which is their student council, and the ways that they're supporting the community. But overall, it was a staff that was very proud of their community, very appreciative of their community, and very positive about what was going on in the building. A couple things we talked about. They asked about what was happening in the legislature right now. We had a nice discussion about technology, and Dr. Rickley asked them about their thoughts on technology, and their feedback indicated that they felt that the iPads were appropriate for the primary grades and the Chromebooks for the upper elementary, and they they shared that they could use more and more accessibility to technology, not necessarily at a one-to-one level, but just having more in the buildings so that they could supplement, especially in the area of language arts. We talked about the new apartments and housing developments in the area and if that was going to have an impact on their growth down the road. And Dr. Settles and Dr. Rickley were able to share some information from the new report that we've had indicating that their growth isn't probably going to change a lot. And then we ended also with a question on snow days and said that we would have to get back to them on that. But a very nice lunch with a very positive staff. And then I did have the opportunity to go read to Tara's 4th, 5th, and 6th graders last week on March 6th. And read the first chapter of a book called The Lost Library, and I'm going to have to find that book so I can find out about Mortimer the cat and what happens in that story. The kids were great. I appreciate the staff taking out time, Mrs. Raymond for inviting me, and the students for their respect and attention while I read to them. So fun morning.
Miss Wood read to my 2 kids at Terra Heights. I wasn't able to do it on Wednesday, but they were in her 4th and 5th grade classes, so thank you.
They say she was a good reader.
A lot better than I would have done. Yes, they were happy she was there.
They
and
did ask me, not your children, but I was asked if the Board of Education were my friends, and if I had a best friend on the board.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well,
what I told them is, these are people that I can go to if I need help, so that would, to me, be a definition of a friend.
nice. Oh, great. Yeah. I had a liaison lunch at Golden Hills on Friday. Dr. Rickley, Dr. Settles came with. We talked through the topics that they wanted to highlight and show their appreciation for was the positive results and the engagement with the new CKLA curriculum. We hear that every elementary school I think we go to. We hear it, continue to hear it, which is great. They continue to say the kids are just much more engaged with this curriculum, and that's just great to see, and especially as we continue to develop it and the teachers get more used to it, that will only continue. They also wanted to highlight how good of a para staff they have this year. They said that they don't remember it ever being better. They appreciate their paras. We had a couple at the lunch. I think at least one was a current parent, if not both of them were current parents of kids at Golden Hills, which is great to see. They wanted to say thanks for the full-time the teacher lead that they have this year for the first year. They said that helps out with just everything that is going on in the building, and so it doesn't take teachers away from some of their roles day to day. And then they wanted to highlight the clubs. They have a number of clubs going on, and they said the response from the kids and the students has been great, and you can see them being much more engaged when they find one of these clubs that interests them. On the side where they just wanted to talk through the continued challenges in the schools, behavior and mental health. We talked through additional school psychologists, potentially more hours with the additional hires that we've talked through over the last couple meetings. And then they wanted to highlight just the behavior coach impact and how spread out some of them are. But they appreciate the resources that we continue to invest in those areas. They say they're helping. We talked through how it's been trending over the last handful of years, and they appreciate what the district has been doing, and we talked through potential additional ideas as well. I'm always open to hearing them. And then they had some playground questions with which Mr. Richards, I'm sure you'll be getting contacted from Dr. Rickley, if not, and some grass area that needs some help. But I appreciate the staff taking the time out of their day and having an open and honest conversation with me. I also went to the unified basketball game, the Titan versus Monarch. It was great to see the community turnout. The weather that night was rough. It was when we got the storm and the rain coming down pretty hard. But it was a great turnout. It was a great event. It's I know a couple of you talked about the elementary one. It's just, I felt a good soul cleanser just seeing the pure enjoyment from those students as they're out there on the court and their families just enjoying it and having a good time. So I want to thank the community for coming out and supporting the event and the students. Yeah, if you have not been to one, when you have the opportunity, I would say it is well worth the time. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Very good reports. Next item on the agenda is committee reports, Building, Grounds, and Finance,
We have not met.
Human Resource and Student Services,
We have not met since last meeting. We have a meeting scheduled for next Thursday at 4 p.m. here at the central office.
and Curriculum and Americanism.
We have not met since the last meeting. We do have a meeting scheduled on the 25th at 4:30.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, action items. Action by consent. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the action by consent items as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Madler. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item on the agenda, School Resource Officer. Is that your item?
Thank you very much, Ms. Whip, members of the board. So I just want to acknowledge Chief Whitted for attending this evening's meeting. Dr. Villarreal and Chief Whitted spoke to the board at our last meeting about a proposed partnership between the city of Papillion, specifically the police department, and the school district to do a cost-sharing agreement between a new SRO supervisor. We articulated some of the benefits that this position will add. We certainly appreciate the city. We certainly appreciate Chief Whitted's support. Gladly answer any questions that have arisen since the last board meeting. Otherwise, our recommendation would be to adopt the proposal and enter into a memorandum of understanding with the police department.
I'll make the motion to approve the split school resource officer supervisor position with the city of Papillion as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Ms. Wood. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Madler?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes,
Mr. Lotus?
Yes.
Motion carried.
thank you. Next on our agenda are discussion and information items, starting with a legislative update by Catalyst Public Affairs, Mr. Gay.
Welcome, Tim.
Halfway update. Today's day 40 out of a 90-day session, so almost halfway. But big week ahead this week. There's going to be, all the priority bills are coming due on Friday, so that will really help funnel things down to, 100 and some bills, 114 bills. So that's very good for us. Then we know kind of what to watch. There's still 2 weeks of hearings left, so you will see some hearings and read about things in the paper, and that's great. Doesn't mean those bills can't be a priority, but usually if you haven't had a hearing yet, you probably don't want to make that bill your priority. So each senator, of course, gets one, the committees each get two, and then the speaker gets 25 bills. So like I say, that's 14% of the 715 bills going forward. Kathy, do I just click this? Is that on there? Oh, we're going. I'm already clicking it. So anyway, just been working closely on some of the bills that were heard earlier. LB 303 is the Hughes bill introduced by the governor. It's a spending bill and TIOSA funding. It creates also a board that would be school finance. The governor's talked about, we got to do something about TIOSA. We've all heard that for, last 20 years probably. But he wants to create a board made up of superintendents, people that really know the issues instead of just a public, we don't like it kind of thing. So that's a good opportunity, I think. We'd love to have somebody get on that board, that understands larger schools. There will be larger ones and smaller ones put on that board. But anyway, that bill I don't know with the financial situation where they're at now. They were 432 million in the hole, I told you earlier. Now it's 200 and some million. They were looking good at $120 million loss, and then they found $90 million oversight in Medicaid, but that can happen. There's a lot of money being spent. So I don't know what he's going to do as far as putting all these things together, trying to get a balanced budget and things like that. I haven't heard the word property tax cut here the last couple weeks, so I think the governor's probably given up on that, but who knows? So we shall see what happens. Senator Hughes introducing that bill, I thought it was interesting that he got her to introduce it. It was kind of her idea. She had the most valid way to look at spending during the special session, I thought. So, and she's got quite a few years left, up to 6 years left in the legislature. So I assume that's what he's doing. We follow this as a perennial LB 300. It's superintendent pay. We don't like it usually. Don't testify on it, but when it tells the school boards what you can and can't do as far as pay and benefits and things like that, it takes away local control. So that's something we keep an eye on. This one too, we're keeping an eye on. LB 509 was pretty much the Linehan bill again that voters just rejected, but it was put in again for tax credits by Sorrentino, and he's the senator that took her place actually. So I don't know if that was, hey, I'll continue to carry this torch or not. It didn't get a very good hearing in the committee, I don't think at all. People were saying, hey, we just did this, didn't we? So I don't think that's going to go. Plus, they don't have $25 million right now to go forward. So right here, we're looking at some of the different. I put these on here. These are, each committee gets 2 priority bills. These are introduced by the education committee members, and they're usually cleanup bills. A lot of times it's a word here, a change, a new code through the federal government, whatever the case may be. So these bills I put on here, I think some of these will probably be their committee bills. They could put all 4 together just by combining them together, but they kind of got to stay within the ESU or whatever it is. But these are probably, they decided early, these are the bills we're going to kind of look at for cleanup. And so I just wanted to put them on there because these can pop up and they could become anything. And quite honestly, they're very generous on germaneness. So sometimes, I mean, they're bringing up things like, how in the world did you get that onto this bill? But this is how they do it. So we watch these pretty closely. Some of them just have their hearings coming up next week. So we'll keep an eye on them and see what happens. I put these on here. These are the ones you're probably reading about a little bit in the paper. Conrad's bill. This is what we actually worked on as well. Senator Conrad had a bill, surveillance, monitoring, tracking. Makes sense. You don't want kids, big tech, tracking your kids, selling their information, whatever. That was the theory behind this bill. I don't know if that's happening. I don't think it's happening. I assume you all watch those kind of things. I shouldn't make an assumption, but it got a lot of pushback. There were a few proponents for it, I shouldn't say that, but most of the school board association and NASB, the council of school, everybody opposed this bill, and it still came out of committee. That set up some red flags. People started looking at it. I know a couple of superintendents made calls. We sent information about the policies you have and some of the issues that may happen. When you dig deeper in this, I mean, there are some issues as far as school security and things like that you don't want to just tell everybody about either. So it got filibustered. I wouldn't even say it was a filibuster. I'd say it was people started asking questions and the thing just fell apart, which is rare because Senator Conrad's a very articulate senator and very, she does a great job. So right now it's on hold. There's just paper in the newspaper today. She might want to bring this back and say, well, if someone else did this, maybe you have something against me. I just think this is bad. Bob Hallstrom, an attorney down in southeast Nebraska, he's a new senator, but he put a couple of amendments on here that pretty much would make it voluntary, that you wouldn't have to do this. So right now it's mandatory, but that would make it voluntary. She did not like that. She didn't see a path forward at this point, so she pulled that bill. But that was one of the first times I saw where people started I got a call from so-and-so, so when you do call, it does make a difference. I'm just telling you that. If there's something we see going forward that you just hate or love, let us know. And we obviously go through Dr. Rickley on what we say. So the second one, LB 140, is the governor put this in, and you have a policy already, devices in the schools. So a lot of schools don't, but how they can use their phones, what is or isn't. I don't want to get too much into that because that may be tweaked a little bit, but that bill is going right through because no one wants the kids, that just sold well. A lot of students came actually and testified in favor of that. So, and then going back, speaking of that, so we do comment on these. So Dr. Rickley did testify in the Hughes bill earlier, did a very good job early. That was a nice one to go through. I don't think there was any opposition to that bill on the financing. It's just the funding that we may not have money for. So speaking of money, LB 411 was just heard today. This is one where when we say there's no money, this basically had a fiscal note of, on the 7th, they gave it $137 million to pay for these teacher bonuses. He must have argued that because they had a new fiscal note. It's still $95 million to pay the teachers. And these were retention grants, went from $2,500 to $5,000 for pretty much all teachers. There's just not the funds for this kind of thing. So you get a bill like that, it's a great intention, but it's pretty much dead on arrival when it comes with that kind of fiscal note. LB 428 got out. It's on general file right now. It's like when you're doing surveys and things like that, you've got to let parents know that you got to do a survey, why, what you're doing, and they can take a look at it. It's 15 days prior. Now it's 30 days. We'll see. It's on general file. I don't know if that will end up passing or not because of the priority situation I just told you about. If it doesn't get a priority, there's a good chance this bill won't come up again this year. 429 pretty much is if you allow the union to come to Teacher Appreciation Day or first day of school, and you have to provide for someone else to come in the opposite view. So I wouldn't call it an anti-union, but it's kind of a professional employees organization. They met the union, but you had to let somebody else give a different point of view on that. So I don't know where that's a big problem, but when the chairman of the, he put it in there, it must be important to him, I guess. So then the next one is we've got some finance. Same thing, LB 173 was an appropriations bill on money. This is a great cause. It's basically to reappropriate $15 million to the option enrollment program to the community colleges. So that was yanked, a chunk of money. Sarah Prokop, a new senator, put that in there. They had a ton of superintendents come in to be proactive and proponents of that bill. There were no opponents, but the fact is it's just a lot of money that I don't know what they're going to do, but that would be in Appropriations Committee right now, and you won't know that till probably towards the end of the day 70 when that happens. This Hughes one was if you had student teachers and you were paying them, and it goes, you don't have to count that towards your budget, pretty much. TIOSA, your taxing lids and those things. So I asked Brad if that's a big deal to us, what it would be. It'd be favorable, but it probably won't be earth-changing for you on that one. 692 was, Brett came down on that one. We met with several people on the Revenue Committee, chairman of the committee and others, and that pretty much would just put a limit on you on growth. You couldn't take your growth from year to year, which would just pretty much kill a growing district. So that one, we pretty much spelled that out, why it's a problem. I think that went very well. It's not going to go anywhere. It sounds like the chairman of the committee pretty much told us he doesn't like it. It's not going to go anywhere. So that was a good little investment of time to come to that. So finishing up, I mean, these are just a few of the 86 bills. I know, Board Member Madler may have some bills that we aren't checking here. There's a lot. We kind of narrow them down to what could pass and give you a flavor of what's going on, not everything going on. So the thing that we see going forward is money, 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 or lack of. So any bill with the spending, I mean, they're getting to anything with spending is probably going to be not going anywhere. But the harder bills are going to come now with the priorities. The gambling was just heard today. I don't know if that will be advanced or somebody prioritizes it, but the gaming, to put that on the ballot, you got the winner take all, that could take, because there still is a filibuster rule, you know, that could take days on these things. You got all the budget cuts that may get out. Taxes will still be talked about, but like I say, I don't know how they get to do anything on taxes. The one thing going forward, I don't want to look too far forward, but they're $1 billion in debt 2 years from now. And I was surprised when the forecast came out positive, quite honestly, but hey, but $1 billion, they made a lot of promises to schools from the general fund, right? When those really start kicking in, it's going to be interesting what will happen, because they're either going to have to cut services a lot, or there's a tax cut that's out there on an income tax cut and other things that they probably want to keep, I'm sure. But that's going to be an interesting situation 2 years from now. Don't want to panic, but that's there's been a lot of money moving to the general fund that you used to be able to tax. Good or bad, that's probably what's going to be coming. So those are the things, like I say, we've been going to a ton of fundraisers still going on. Surprisingly, I've already met with 4 legislative candidates. It's like 2 years ahead, but I guess it isn't. But so there's candidates already coming for some of the term limited people. One of those would be Speaker Arch, who's just been really good. He's only got a year left, you know, so 8 or 9 of them. It won't be a huge, massive turn like we just saw, but 8 or 9 of them are their last 2 years. So it'll be this year and then that short session. That probably sounds like a long time, but it's not for what we're doing. And the idea is that they want to push forward. So there's a lot of things still going on. Like I say, I'm sure you're going to things. If there's questions I can ask or bills you want to follow, you know, let Dr. Rickley know, because we meet we have calls every Wednesday, you know, kind of say what's happening this week, the next week, whatever. And then just different things to stay in touch of, look out for landmines kind of thing. But with that, I don't have a whole lot else. Any questions or anything I can try to answer?
I appreciate the overview, and yeah, as they come out with the priority bills this week and then the committee priority bills as well, just keep us posted, then we do have a better sense of what's kind of going to get pushed as these final 50 days, and if we can contact any of the senators on those priority bills, let us know. And then the question, they haven't come out with the budget yet to make up that $200 million.
Yeah, they have the preliminary budget comes out, so the governor throws something in. The Appropriations Committee mulls it all over and tries narrowing it down. So that came out.
Oh, it did.
And
Okay.
but it's still preliminary. That's
Yeah.
before all the bills even get asked. So before the pro-cop bill, and there's a ton of great causes going on, you know, that people want to spend money on, but they're just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like I say, the cuts are going to happen. His own departments are cutting big time. So if you're under the governor's purview, you're coming in with a lower budget. So I think he's like 1% maybe. Ricketts was at 3.5, somewhere in there. So we'll see if that can hold up. And the one thing I want to watch is, with so many new people, the legislature controls the budget, right? It's like anything. But with so many new people, how much are they getting? When are they going to say, wait, that's just not right? Mm-hmm. You know, will they do something different than the governor? And who knows? It's going to be interesting, because a lot of people were elected and they're friends with the governor or whatever. So we'll see if the separation of powers kind of works going forward. But that budget is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people involved in it, I think, than usual, because they're cutting. When they're adding things, people are like, looks good to me, I got my whatever in there. But this time, when you didn't get your program in there, there's going to be probably a lot more people watching it and talking about it.
Yeah.
Instead of just glossing it over for a day and voting it forward.
Yeah, and I think we'll just have to stay close with that. I think I heard this morning on the NASB call, and the at least proposed budget is it potentially that they stripped out the funding of the mandatory junior year ACT tests from districts? So like some of those, which would come, if they keep in the law that they all have to take them, but they stop paying for it, then it's back on us on the funding side. So we'll just have to, with any of those, just obviously stay on top of any of their budget decisions.
Yeah, and that's where it's good for those. I'm no expert in the school budget, you know what I mean? But the people that are watching that thing very closely. So pay attention when the School Boards Association is talking, or the school administrators, NCSA. They follow that really closely. There's going to be a lot of little things in there that add up, I think. But I just don't know what they are yet. And part of that's just so hard because until it really comes out those last few days, unless you're in that committee, because what they do, they go to exec session, and they don't, they don't tell you what's going on. So it'll be interesting to see.
Well, appreciate it.
Yep.
Tim, as always, thank you for the report. He mentioned, Mr. Gay mentioned that he does the weekly phone call with Brett and I. In addition to that, in representing the district's interests on a regular basis, we also receive daily updates from an associate in his office. So the communication has been fantastic. It always has been, and just really grateful for the work that you do to support the district, Tim.
Good to hear. Thank you. Okay, it seems like baseball season, not basketball season today. All right. Yeah. That's right. See you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Richards, do you have anything to add to the conversation? This was under your,
I don't at this time. I know the ones that make me real nervous are always any sort of talk about caps on that 3%. And he mentioned that bill up there tonight, and those are very concerning for the larger districts that are growing. It's just not feasible to do 3% caps on when you're opening a new school or have more staffing you have to add and those types of things. So that continues to be our fight down there with a few of the bills. But that'd be the only thing extra I would add.
all right, thank you. Our next agenda item is Review Policy 3000. Mr. Richards.
Yes, we are starting to review Policy 3000's business and non-instructional operations. If you have any of those you'd like reviewed, our Buildings, Grounds, Finance Committee is meeting a week from Friday, and that'll be an agenda item that we take a look at and see if there's anything in there that we need to change or want to change. So you can let myself or one of the committee members know.
Thank you. Next item is Summer Facility Projects. I think that's, again, Mr. Richards.
Yes, we like to bring some of the major projects forward to the board that we're looking at trying to complete in the summer. These are usually outside of the bond projects that have already been approved by the voters and the board. And these four that we've identified this year are within our special building fund budget and maybe some partial general fund involved. We'll wait to see what comes out with the designs and the bids with each of these. But they are the turf replacement at Foundation Field. Turf is built to last about 8 to 10 years. We just completed year 11. And the turf handled it pretty well. I think the newer turf can even maybe go past 10 that they're coming out with now engineering-wise. So we're hoping for the better to keep those things lasted. But it's time to replace the Foundation Field turf. Our committee will meet on that next week too, with some of the designs out there from Field Turf and the bids that come in for that project. We've met with both athletic directors and principals on that project and received some feedback as well on things that might be missing on the turf, or if we want to see some different designs and things of that nature than just having the green turf. So it'll be a good discussion at our subcommittee next week on those things. Number 2 is the ADA wheelchair access to Foundation Field. Right now, with students that are trying to get down to the field for band per se, of those things, they have to go clear around to the south side of the stadium, and we've had a few complaints on that. So we want to try to make that a little more accessible for kids in wheelchairs on the north side of the stadium to make it easier to get down to the field. So we've discussed a variety of options on that. Our engineers have come up with a few plans to look at there for sidewalks, meandering down there, wheelchair lifts, and those types of things. So we're going to discuss that a little bit more in committee here next week, and then bring the board a recommendation once we get that finalized. Number 3 is Golden Hills Playground resurfacing.
Most of our elementary schools now have been resurfaced or will be resurfaced within the bond projects. So we wanted to bring this one forward to do this summer. Probably be a late summer deal. If you remember right, talking through these playground projects, there's not very many companies that do them and they get booked quick. So we've kind of earmarked August for this to happen. Our engineers are working on that. We're collecting bids for those projects right now as we speak. So hopefully we'll be able to bring a good plan back to the board here in next meeting or early April with Golden Hills Playground resurfacing as well. And then the last project we're looking at is track replacement at Papillion La Vista High School. So both tracks need to be replaced at our high schools, Foundation Fields track as well. We didn't want to take on both of those at the same time, and in addition, try to do the turf all in one summer, because we know how much that field is used, and that if we were running a little late on that project, we're into football season and we got a problem. So we split those out at Foundation Field. But what we can do this summer is replace the one at Papillion La Vista High School. So these tracks are kind of hard. There's a asphalt infrastructure underneath these tracks. Okay, and after about 20, well, even before that sometimes, if it's not done really well, they start cracking underneath. So you can resurface them up top as many times as you want. Within a couple of years, the cracks are coming back. I was over there last week at Monarchs. We got a crack probably 2 inches thick just on one side of the ones I looked at, on the east side of the track, or west side. You know, it comes all the way across. You just can't go in there and resurface it and fix it. We just Band-Aid it every spring at this point to try to get it to stay. So we need to go in, dig it all up, pour a good foundation underneath it, and we'll have to do the foundation field the same way next year. And then put a nice track surface on top of it. And then, as you know, with the bond, we're doing the track surface, redoing all our tracks at Papillion Middle and La Vista Middle as well this summer. Well, Liberty's not in that. They just have an asphalt track that's there. I think we're in year 8 of that track, and we can put a surface on top of that, which is a lot cheaper than redoing the whole thing. So we would just put a top surface on that one to match the other 2 middle schools. So all 3 middle schools will have the same top surface on those for track. So those are the 4 we're looking at right now. I wanted to get in front of the whole board as the committee kind of delves into each of these and starts looking at some bids and things of that nature to bring back for the whole board in the future.
I will add that the Golden Hills Playground did come up with Mr. Madler and I at our liaison lunch.
We were all over that then.
Yes, and we told them that they were very concerned about the pea gravel and the wood chips and what an inappropriate surface, and they're right. And we said, well, help is coming probably later this summer. So thank you for addressing that.
Any discussion for Mr. Richards? It sounds like that subcommittee's going to be pretty busy for a while. All right, our last item under discussion information is the RFP for wireless network systems, hardware, and software, and that is Mr. Matt Moore and Ms. Shireen Siri.
Hello, good evening. So wanted to talk real quick about the RFP that we put out for our wireless network. It's for the hardware and software component of our wireless network. The RFP is in conjunction with the E-rate program. So we'll utilize E-rate discounts with this project. The last purchase was in 2020, obviously before we were one-to-one. So we've added devices on top of additions to buildings, more buildings. So we're trying to plan for that as well and future-proof ourselves. This is also in our technology cycle, in our technology plan. So it's cycled for our 5-year cycle. The scope of the RFP is going to replace our wireless controller, the management software for the wireless controller, the network access control, the software for that, as well as the physical access points, the hardware. So it's going to replace all that and provide us some redundancy as well, which we've been looking for, I know, to get to. So we're looking to, we've got evaluations done. And now we're just trying to nail down the cost of it completely, and hoping to have that done for approval on the 24th. Do you guys have any questions?
Thanks for the overview, Matt. So this, moving forward with this, you feel like you'd be able to handle better the one-to-one that we have right now at the secondary level?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are we building in capacity to potentially expand one-to-one, so we're not back here in a couple of years?
So we are currently in the middle of that tech audit where that is all being decided. I don't know if the number of, obviously the number of devices are going to increase regardless of the one-to-one, if I'm being honest. Matt alluded to it, but the last time we did this, we since that time have added at least 8,000 additional devices for our students. We've added the cameras, we've added the copiers now run on wireless. I think the coffee makers run on wireless. I'm just kidding. But all of those devices have to access this network. And so it really is about expansion. We did try to build in the capabilities, obviously, for the 5-year cycle. Last time, honestly, I don't want to brag, not as this would, but we did pretty well when you consider how many additional devices we've put on since that time. The redundancy part, I think, is really important because if our network goes down, this would allow us to have internet from a different direction. So hopefully, because we are just so reliant upon it now for access with student information, everything in between, as well as the cameras and safety considerations. So, yeah. So yes, it does allow for more devices even beyond student devices.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you. Being.
One other thing I forgot to mention, I think, did you talk about E-rate?
I heard him say it.
Yep, okay, perfect. I just want to make sure we mentioned that we're using our E-rate funds for it.
What's our discount percentage?
I'm not exactly sure. It was 50% last time,
Okay.
so,
It probably is around that.
yeah.
That's still a pretty good deal to get
Yeah.
50% off. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you. All right, we have no public comment, and our next agenda item is future board. March 16 through 19 is the NSAB Federal Advocacy Conference in Washington, D.C. Mr. Madler, Ms. Wood, myself, and Dr. Rickley will be attending that. On March 21st, a liaison lunch at Patriot with Mr. Bailey, and on the 24th, the next Board of Education meeting. I would like to thank Kathy Baranko for being our recorder. I told you I was going to say that, I forgot last time. And thank you, Mr. Moore, for the technical support. Seeing no other business, we will adjourn at 6:47.